Russia is stunned today. Ukraine claims control of Crimea. This could change the entire war. What really happened? Is this truth or strategy? Watch till the end to understand everything. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are discussing one of the most shocking claims of the Ukraine-Russia war. Ukraine says it now controls Crimea. This statement has stunned Russia and surprised the world. Crimea is not just land, it is a symbol of power. Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, and since then it has been central to the conflict. Ukraine claiming control means a major shift. According to Ukrainian officials, their forces have pushed Russian defenses back. They say key routes are now under Ukrainian pressure. Russia has not fully accepted this claim. Instead, Moscow says the situation is under control. Independent confirmation is still limited, but satellite images show increased military movement. Experts say this could be part of psychological warfare. Information battles are common in modern wars. Crimea holds military bases and naval ports, especially the Black Sea Fleet. Losing influence here would hurt Russia badly. For Ukraine, this claim boosts morale. It also increases international attention. Western allies are closely watching developments. If true, this could reshape negotiations. But if false, it could escalate fighting. Today we will break down what this claim means, how Russia is reacting, and what could happen next in this war. Crimea's importance cannot be overstated. This peninsula controls access to the Black Sea. It supports trade routes and military supply lines. Russia uses Crimea as a launch base. From here, missiles and aircraft operate. Ukraine understands this value very well. That is why Crimea remains a top objective. Recent months saw intensified strikes near the region. Bridges, fuel depots, and airfields were targeted. Ukraine never officially confirmed operations, but patterns were clear. Russia strengthened air defenses around Crimea. Checkpoints and patrols increased. Civilian movement was also restricted. Now Ukraine claims these defenses are weakening. They say Russian troops are stretched thin. Resources are limited on multiple fronts. This creates opportunities. Military analysts say control does not mean full occupation. It can also mean fire control. When supply routes are under threat, command becomes difficult. Russia depends heavily on the Crimean bridge. Any disruption impacts logistics. Ukraine has focused on isolating the peninsula, cutting it off slowly. This strategy is called shaping the battlefield. It prepares ground without direct assault. Crimea becoming unstable would pressure Moscow, both politically and militarily. Russia's reaction to the claim has been cautious. Official statements deny any loss of control. Kremlin sources call it propaganda. State media downplays the situation. However, internal signals suggest concern. Emergency meetings were reportedly held. Air defense alerts increased in the region. Russian bloggers reported explosions. Some posts were later removed. This often indicates information control. Russia has invested heavily in Crimea, both financially and symbolically. Losing narrative control is dangerous. Putin has linked Crimea to national pride. Any threat challenges that image. Military experts say Russia will respond strongly, either by reinforcing troops or increasing missile strikes elsewhere. This is meant to regain dominance. Escalation is a common response pattern. Internationally, Russia accuses NATO involvement, claims Western weapons enabled Ukrainian success. This messaging targets domestic audiences. It frames Russia as defending itself, but allies are watching closely. Any major escalation could trigger consequences. Russia must balance response and restraint. Overreaction could widen the conflict. Underreaction could appear weak. Crimea therefore becomes a test case, not just of military power, but political control and credibility. From Ukraine's perspective, this claim serves many purposes. It boosts soldier morale on the front lines. It strengthens public confidence at home. War fatigue is real in long conflicts. Positive news helps sustain support. Internationally, it sends a message. Ukraine wants continued aid and weapons. Showing progress helps that argument. Leaders in Kiev carefully choose words. Claiming control rather than occupation matters. It avoids legal complications. It also maintains strategic ambiguity. Ukraine has previously used similar tactics, announcing pressure instead of capture. This keeps Russia guessing. Military secrecy remains important. If Ukraine truly controls access routes, Russia faces difficult choices: withdraw or reinforce under risk. Either option has costs. Ukraine also considers civilian safety. Crimea has a mixed population. Any operation risks humanitarian issues. That is why isolation is preferred. Slow pressure rather than direct assault. Western officials remain careful. They do not fully confirm claims, but they acknowledge Ukrainian momentum. Satellite imagery and intelligence matter here. In coming weeks, evidence will emerge, either confirming or challenging this claim. Until then, uncertainty remains part of the strategy. The global impact of a Crimea shift would be massive. Energy markets would react immediately. Shipping routes in the Black Sea would change. Countries dependent on grain exports watch closely. Any instability affects food prices. Politically, this would reshape peace talks. Crimea has always been a red line for Russia. Ukraine insists it must be returned. If control shifts even partially, negotiation power changes, allies may push for stronger positions or attempt new diplomatic efforts. China and other neutral states observe quietly. They prefer stability over escalation. The United Nations urges restraint, but has limited influence on the ground. Media coverage intensifies public pressure. Narratives shape public opinion globally. For Russia, this is about sovereignty claims. For Ukraine, this is about territorial integrity. Both sides see Crimea as non-negotiable. That makes the situation dangerous. History shows such disputes escalate quickly. Military analysts warn against premature conclusions. Claims must be verified. Wars often include information fog. Truth emerges slowly. The next phase will depend on actions, not words alone, troop movement, supply lines, and confirmed control. These factors will decide Crimea's future, and possibly the direction of the entire war. Military experts are divided on Ukraine's claim. Some believe partial control is realistic. Others say full control is unlikely right now. Modern warfare is complex. Control does not always mean boots everywhere. It often means dominance over movement. Ukraine may control airspace pressure or key supply routes. This limits Russian operations. Analysts track satellite data daily. They watch fuel depots and airfields. Recent patterns show reduced Russian flights. This suggests caution or limitation. Russia may be conserving assets. That itself signals vulnerability. Ukraine has used drones effectively. Long-range strikes changed battlefield rules. Crimea was once considered untouchable. That perception is fading. Experts say symbolism matters greatly. Even claims can alter behavior. Russia may redeploy forces, weakening other fronts. This creates new Ukrainian opportunities. However, risks remain high. Crimea is heavily defended. Any miscalculation could be costly. Ukraine must balance speed and safety. Western intelligence likely guides decisions. Shared data improves precision. The coming days will test these theories. Real outcomes will clarify. Expert debates soon. Civilians in and around Crimea face uncertainty. Reports suggest increased checkpoints. Travel restrictions are tighter. Some residents are leaving the peninsula. Others remain cautious and silent. Information is tightly controlled. Internet disruptions were reported. This often happens during security alerts. Families worry about escalation. Daily life becomes unpredictable. Markets experience shortages quickly. Fuel access is especially sensitive. Any disruption affects transport and heating. Ukraine says it avoids civilian targets. This claim is important internationally. Humanitarian law remains under scrutiny. Russia accuses Ukraine of destabilization. Ukraine accuses Russia of militarization. Both narratives clash strongly. Aid organizations monitor developments. But access is limited. Fear spreads faster than facts. This is common in conflict zones. Psychological pressure impacts civilians deeply. Long-term stress changes behavior. Migration increases quietly. Neighboring regions feel pressure. Local administrations prepare contingency plans. Schools and hospitals adjust schedules. While leaders speak strategically, ordinary people focus on survival. Their voices are often unheard. Crimea's future affects millions beyond politics. International response remains measured but alert. Western governments avoid direct confirmation. They rely on intelligence assessments. Support for Ukraine continues steadily. Aid packages remain under discussion. Crimea developments influence these decisions. Success strengthens Ukraine's position. Failure could slow momentum. NATO watches escalation risks carefully. Any spillover is unacceptable. European leaders call for restraint publicly. Privately, they plan contingencies. Sanctions pressure on Russia remains firm. New actions depend on developments. Global South nations urge dialogue. They worry about economic fallout. Energy prices impact domestic stability. Markets react to uncertainty quickly. Investors dislike prolonged conflict signals. Media coverage shapes public opinion. Images and headlines matter greatly. Narratives influence political pressure. Russia accuses the West of manipulation. The West accuses Russia of aggression. This cycle continues. Crimea becomes a focal symbol again. Diplomacy struggles under military realities. Talks seem distant at the moment, but back channels likely remain open. History shows wars shift suddenly. One event can reset negotiations. Crimea may become that turning point soon. Looking ahead, several scenarios are possible. Ukraine may consolidate pressure quietly. Avoiding large-scale announcements, Russia may reinforce heavily, leading to tense standoffs. Another option is intensified strikes elsewhere. This diverts attention and resources. Information warfare will increase. Claims, counterclaims, and denials will dominate. Truth will remain hard to verify. Winter conditions could slow operations. Logistics become harder in cold months. This favors defensive strategies. Ukraine must maintain supply flow. Russia must protect long routes. Crimea's isolation would strain Russia, but breaking isolation is also possible. Everything depends on sustained pressure. Allies play a critical role. Weapons intelligence and funding matter. Public support shapes political will. Fatigue is growing globally. Leaders balance domestic concerns. Ukraine seeks decisive outcomes. Russia seeks endurance advantages. Time becomes a weapon. Each side measures patience. Small gains can have large impacts. Morale shifts affect battlefield outcomes. Crimea symbolizes these dynamics perfectly. Its fate may decide the next phase, not just for Ukraine and Russia, but for regional security overall. As of now, uncertainty defines the situation. Ukraine's claim challenges existing assumptions. Russia's denial maintains its stance. Facts will emerge gradually. Independent verification is essential. Viewers should remain critical. Avoid emotional reactions to headlines. War information is often incomplete. This channel focuses on clarity. Context matters more than speed. Crimea remains a strategic prize. Both sides understand its value. Any real shift will be historic. Military movements will confirm realities. Satellite data and ground reports matter. Leaders will adjust strategies accordingly. For civilians, peace remains the priority. Long conflicts bring immense suffering. International pressure seeks limitation. But outcomes depend on choices. Escalation is always a risk. So is stagnation. Ukraine's confidence sends a signal. Russia's response will define next steps. Watch troop deployments carefully. Monitor official statements closely. Separate claims from confirmed actions. This situation is still developing. Changes can happen rapidly. Crimea's story is far from over. Its future will shape the war narrative and possibly influence global security balances. Stay informed, stay analytical, and prepare for further updates soon. If you found this breakdown useful, like the video, share it with others, and subscribe for clear war analysis. Comment your thoughts respectfully, and stay tuned for verified updates.